I had a chance to meet with some of you guys when we launched our company back in April of 2013. We gave some folks here at Storage Field Day the first view of what Exablox was when we came out of stealth. And now we're here to give you guys a recap of sort of what we've been doing and some of the stuff we've been working on, where we're going next, and some of the results of the efforts that we've been putting into play. One of the things that I was absolutely delighted by is after we did our announcement at Storage Field Day, we went out to the rest of the industry and started telling folks about what it was Exablox was doing, and people started getting experience with our product, and we were able to just gather a whole slew of awards around Exablox and our One Blocks vision. And I think that's really very helpful to us in validating the solution, and I think it was a lot of how we positioned our product as we went out to the press was based on some of the feedback that we received from you guys. So thank you so much for that help. Just a recap for those of you who may not be familiar with Exablox. We were founded in 2010 with this idea of having a very disruptive, powerful solution around the idea of scale-out storage with a focus on ease of use, cost, economic efficiency, TCO, management functionality, full feature set. Those were big drivers for us and real keywords and touchstones as we went to develop our products. When we assembled the team, we were able to put together a group of folks that came out of industry stalwarts like Data Domain, Veritas, EMC, NetApp, Fusion.io, Virident. All these guys came together, and they came together because Exablox is really taking a clean sheet approach to storage. We didn't start with a open source file system or start with a traditional architecture. We did a new ground up build of a complete file system, and you'll hear more about that today from Tad. What we launched into the market was a solution that really encompassed scale out storage for the enterprise, and it addresses this $10 billion market for external controller based storage, and it really has two components. One is our One Blocks. It's a storage appliance. I've got 14 of them on racks here beside me, and those are 2U devices that are designed to be scalable and stackable. Second component is One System, and One System is our cloud-based management system. None of your data goes up into cloud, but every one of our boxes phones home and allows you to reach out and manage all of your devices anywhere in your network. You can manage a cluster at a time, you can manage a network at a time, or if you're a VAR or an MSP, you can manage hundreds of customers' deployments from a single pane of glass that's hosted up in the cloud. So manage all your storage from your phone at the beach, it's all there for you. We've done a lot to build very, very cutting edge IP here, and we've also done some stuff to protect that IP. We have 15 patents filed, and we've got more on the way. Obviously, this sort of undertaking doesn't happen cheap. Exablox has raised $38.5 million of VC funding from Norwest Ventures, DCM Ventures, US Venture Partners, and Dell Ventures was the most recent set of folks to join our funding syndicate. And we've grown to over 100 revenue customers, and we have over 30 billion objects being managed on Exablox devices. 30 billion sounds like a lot. It's 1% of Amazon, I think, roughly speaking, which is actually a pretty cool number when you think about a company as young as we are. So as a quick refresher, I'm not going to go through everybody's bio in deep detail, but one of the things I'm proudest of as CEO is that I've been able to bring forward a team of folks that have frankly done it all before. I think since the last couple times we've met you guys, Ezra Hakanu, as our VP of Sales, is one of our most recent joins. He was the first VP of America Sales at Barracuda. He took them from about zero to about $150 million before he went off, ultimately joining Fusion.io, where he was VP of Channels for the last 3 years. So he's the most recent person to join, rounding out the team of myself, Tad Hunt, CTO, co-founder, who you'll hear from later on, Ramesh Balan, ex-Veritas and Data Domain, who's our VP of Engineering, and Sridhar Subramaniam, who's sitting over there. He's ex-Virident and NetApp. So the theme here is a bunch of guys that have done a lot of storage work at some very, very successful companies, and they're bringing that legacy to us. But as I said, they're very enthused about the idea of being able to approach this from a clean sheet design. We're about 50, maybe 55 employees right now. We're all here in Sunnyvale, California. So, when we think about why Exablox resonates with people, a typical customer story that we see today is a customer who may have 50 terabytes of storage that they were using last year, and this may have been for a fairly traditional application, and their aggregated storage was sort of under control and probably purchased from a typical scale-up storage vendor. And now these customers are coming to us because they say, this year we think we're going to need maybe 3 times the performance and maybe 4 times the volume of the storage. But what's really frightening them is they look out a couple years and they say, but we know that we're going to need 16 times that storage in a couple years, and we're going to need 10 times the performance. And I may have that wrong. It may actually be 20 times, or it may actually be 12 times. And I'm not exactly sure how these apps are going to grow. How am I going to manage that, right? And these are typical customer problems. And what's happening is their traditional vendors are saying things like, well, guess what? Figure out how big you're going to be in 5 years. We'll add 30% to that just to make sure that you don't outgrow it. And you can buy it all today at today's prices, right? And this, from 30%? A customer perspective, what?
30%?
Okay.
You haven't dealt with the MC sales guys. 50%.
Thank you. Thank you. I was trying to be kind. So, and it guarantees one of 2 things. Either you'll be underutilized and therefore you overpaid, or you'll be overutilized, in which case you'll need to do an early forklift upgrade, right? And so what these guys are saying is, hey, listen, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, right? It's a real head scratcher. Why would I do this? And instead what they want to do is they want to do things the web scale way. They want to start with one and they want to progress up from there. And that's really where Exablox comes in. We allow customers to start with a single appliance with just 3 disk drives in it. They can add more drives as they want of any size or capacity. When they fill up the chassis, they stack another one on top. The namespace just grows. The file system just gets bigger, but you add performance and you add capacity and you add resiliency, right? And we allow customers to scale their clusters up from just a single node. So we were focusing on a very inexpensive get started, but the ability to grow almost seamlessly from there. And this doesn't come easy, right? This was a lot of work on the IP front to make this happen. We are a software company. Everything we do is about building in file system smarts. And it started with this engineering challenge that Tad and others put forward, saying, challenging Ramesh's team, if you could reimagine storage, what would you do different? What would it look like? And they said, well, if we were going to start from scratch, we'd want a system that does scale out. Obviously, that's a key fundamental value proposition about solving that customer problem I described. But the next thing is, you absolutely want to do dedupe, right? And not deduplicating in modern storage architecture just doesn't make sense, right? You want the ability to snapshot, and not just snapshot once or twice, but snapshot continuously, so automatically, so that you have effectively something like Apple's Time Machine built into every file share. Right? You want the ability to replicate from site to site for disaster recovery capabilities, but you got to make this thing so incredibly simple that anybody can use it, so that the rapid nature of the deployment isn't compromised, right? So that person can just scale out in that web scale way. And finally, you want to be able to be managed from anywhere, right? We don't want to tie people down to a particular console. And in fact, when you think about very, very large scale out systems, you're dealing with large clusters. That means you don't want to be doing element management. You want to be doing complete storage cluster management, in fact, storage network management. And therefore, managing it from the cloud makes a tremendous amount of sense. So we're going to roll this up into a single enterprise class solution, but have it be affordable and integrated. And so I think you guys may recall, but for some of you who may be new, we developed a unique architecture around this. Everybody here, since we're at Storage Field Day, understands what happens with block storage, understands a traditional file system built on a block store, and understands the advantages and scalability and resiliency of object stores. That's great, but there's some problems here, right? Most apps, almost all apps that are third-party apps that people use today are expecting to see either block stores or they're expecting to see file stores. They aren't expecting to see object stores. So how do you get to the benefits of object storage in terms of resiliency, scalability, while at the same time being consistent with all the other applications that people use today? And the answer for us was we built a file system from scratch on top of an object store that we built from scratch. So Exablox is providing really a object storage technology and a complete POSIX compliant file system, nearly POSIX compliant file system, Tad will get me in a minute, on top of that object store. And that's really what Exablox has been doing over the last few years in development, is building out this technology. And so what we want to do is combine the best of both worlds, give the compatibility of traditional storage, and at the same time provide the scalability, resilience of object storage. So our products today are accessed via SMB and NFS. We don't require a special SMB or NFS head. We don't require a third-party gateway. We don't require any other piece of software on the client. You turn on the power and we just look like a SMB NFS device. While at the same time, underneath, providing all of that object technology. And so what you've got is all the advantages of traditional NAS in terms of being able to used in a large breadth of applications for lots of unstructured data, lots of dynamic data, lots of use with third-party apps, and at the same time have that advantages of object storage, including the scalability, including the ease of management, and including things like dedupe and encryption and global namespaces, things that you can get very easily with an appropriately designed object store. And its key there is appropriately designed, and Tad will tell you more about that. So again, all the advantages of the NAS with also the superior properties of object storage. So the two components of the solution that I mentioned earlier, the appliances that we mentioned, as well as the cloud-based management system. And just to dive in a little bit, we think that OneBlox is unique in that in a single integrated package, right? No external software, fully standards compliant. We've got scale-out dedupe. We've got continuous snapshots. RAID-less capacity, so we don't use RAID 5, RAID 6. We essentially give you a S3-like replication capability in a box, site-to-site disaster recovery, and we allow you to bring any drive at retail pricing. So when HGST, for example, introduced 6 terabyte helium drives last January, Exablox was one of the first companies to support them. We were really the only way that you could get enterprise-class storage with 6 terabyte densities.
Doug, I should be holding the technical questions for later, right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
But you could if you wanted to. You want to throw one
I'm
out?
mic'd up back here too, so
Yeah.
Okay.
if Doug can't field it,
All
I'm
right.
happy to.
Any does not include shingled magnetic recording, right? That would be stupid.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yep, we'll talk a little bit about that, actually. You can put lots of different things in here, and how they perform is a question about the technology. And yet when you drop these things in, right, our goal here is to allow people to take advantage of the cost curves rapidly, right? So whereas traditional vendors want to keep you from going to high density, high capacity drives because it erases, their margins and the size of their deals, we actually encourage it. And so customers that have deployed OneBlox systems have gone from 2 terabytes to 4 terabytes to 6 terabytes and now looking at 8 terabyte drives in their chassis and get more and more value out of our software. And frankly, we're delighted by that. It proves out.
And the customers are actually putting the drives in directly. You're not servicing these things. So somebody
Flip
pops
this open.
plugs in a drive.
You do this, you do that, drive pops out, you're all good to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really like the toolless, sledless.
Thank you. We worked really hard on that, and I'm pleased to say that's the first patent I've ever been granted. So I was very happy about that, with help from Tad and others.
We as an industry don't pay enough attention to mechanical engineering.
Tad and I were just remarking actually on the way in here. We worked pretty aggressively with some mechanical design team to go make this thing work, and we've got more great tricks up our sleeves, by the way, but that's for another time.
And effectively, a customer can put in any commercial drive, SATA drive in there that he wants.
Yeah, we have 6 gigabit per second channels, SATA SAS, inside this box. And when it comes on board, we just connect to it through a standard, MPT driver, and it looks like a block device for us. We don't do RAID, so we don't care about synchronizing spindles. We use statistical object distribution underneath, so we just we do a weighted balance, and we fill up the bigger drives faster than we fill up the smaller drives, and we rebalance the drives so that when you change a configuration by putting more big new drive in there, we just start migrating objects onto that drive, and it all happens sort of automatically. You don't see it happening underneath.
Okay.
And there's an object level distribution, so if you were to go and pull a drive, whether it be failed or you just feel like pulling it out and swapping a larger drive in, it takes care of it that way, correct?
Yep, and so there are 2 other copies that are elsewhere in the cluster, and they redistribute themselves using consistent hashing, and Tad will tell you more about that. Okay? So these devices support 8 drives, 3.5 inch. We have tested and certified the 6 terabyte drives, working on the 8 terabyte drives now, so up to 48 raw terabytes in a device. Obviously, we do deduplication upon that. We also do 3-way replication as well for reliability. So there's give and take. There's a cup of coffee over there because 1, we're a coffee culture, but 2, our goal is you should be able to set one of these things up fast and you can make a cup of coffee, right? And that's really our, what we think about every day is if it's taking longer than a cup of coffee, we did something wrong. From one system perspective, you manage every device by going to onesystem.exablox.com. If the box has never been used before, you get a pairing code up on the LCD, and you type in the pairing code into your web browser, and then you own that box. And once you've done that, you can manage it from anywhere in a multi-tenant environment. So if you're a VAR or an MSP, you're able to take a look at every customer that you have access permission to and see, hey, what's happening to that customer? Are they out of space? Do they have a drive failure? Is there some app that's eating up all their performance? Get in there and figure out both, hey, how do I keep this customer working as seamlessly as possible, and also, frankly, spot new revenue opportunities for them, right? If you click into a customer, you can actually see multiple locations of that customer. If they've meshed their clusters together to do site-to-site replication, for example, you can configure that. If you click into a particular node, we'll show you every drive in that system. And we actually collect smart reports from every drive connected in every Exablox on a regular basis. We have over 6 million smart reports right now that are in our database, which we've appropriately anonymized, but we do a lot of data analytics on that to say, hey, guess what kind of drives are working really well today, and guess what kind of drives are showing certain pre-failure conditions. And again, Tad can explain a little bit more about how.
So have you thought about releasing the same sort of data that Backblaze did?
You can actually go to smart1.exablox.com, and you can actually get data on every one of those drives anonymized. So yes.
And we're doing a big study now on the actual data sets. Now that we have enough data.
And that's available, is it? We can look at that.
The study's not done, so you can get the raw data.
No, I mean we can get the raw data though.
Yeah.
Yep, you can get the raw data.
Super.
It'd be really interesting to see whether proper mechanical engineering affects drive reliability.
Exactly.
Because
And
Backblaze with the rubber bands holding the things in,
you've got 2 data sets to
that
compare.
is a nasty environment.
So yeah, first of all, full disclosure, Gleb and Brian used to work with me at SonicWall. I acquired their previous company, Mail Frontier, and I have huge respect for everything those guys have done because I love the way they disclose all that information. I think that what they're doing is something that, frankly, I would like to get to the point where we do as much good disclosure as what they're doing. And from a mechanical design perspective, we have different design goals than they do, right? They get to control their environment pretty well.
Right.
We don't get to control where our boxes go.
They're very much oh my God, it failed. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
And corporate data centers are, oh my God, it failed. So very different worlds.
Yeah. And we don't. We've had people ship our boxes around with drives in them, right? I mean, we've had people do all sorts of wacky stuff, right? And of course, we actually collect lots of statistics for reporting as well. One data point that I just wanted to give to you guys is that we've actually seen some pretty phenomenal growth here at Exablox over the last little bit. This is just sort of the growth of our installed base units and the number of petabytes we're storing. We're on a pretty good hockey stick here in terms of revenue growth. We are certainly seeing a lot of use cases out there in the field, and it's been a very, very gratifying to see this technology get spread. Whoops, went the wrong direction. And so I guess I'm running out of time. I think there's a couple things I want to leave you with. One is that we're focused on providing this web scale out approach to everybody, right? Everybody should get the sort of benefits that Google gets when Google says, hey, just throw up another box and let's go make it work and scale ourselves a little bit more. Shouldn't everybody get that in their data center, right? That's what we're about, right? We want to make it plug and play with every app. We also want to make it plug and play with every drive. We want people to be able to say, I'm not going to spend $1,500 on a 2 terabyte disk drive, thank you very much, traditional vendor. I'll drive down to Fry's and I'll spend $250 and get 6 terabytes right now. And then because of these things, because of these focuses on scale out, on ease of use, on being able to bring your own drive, right? We want to have the best dollar per terabyte, best dollar per feature, and lowest TCO. And that comes from this, sort of the coffee philosophy, right? If it's taking longer than a cup of coffee, not only is it wasting your time, but it's costing you money, right? And so keeping it easy, keeping it scalable, that's what works for us and works for our customers and works for our channel partners. So in a summary, we've got really, really strong software IP here. What you see when you come to Exablox, we try to make it look so easy that you have to think, boy, there must not be much to it because it looks so easy. But actually the inverse is true. What I learned working at SonicWall for 8 years is that to build a really, really good, easy to use product requires that you build first a really great product that's hard to use, and then figure out how to get the ease of use into the product, and that takes more engineering, not less.
Easy to use is easy to say. Hard to do.
It's really hard to do. And just to give you guys a perspective, our UI team, our management team, right, was one of the first hires that we built into this company. It wasn't an afterthought. We did not build a CLI for this product and then add a UI on later and try to put cloud-based management in later. That was it from day one. So we've got more than a dozen patents. I think we're up to 15 now pending on this. The exec team here has all done it before, and I'm just blessed by working with a set of guys where I can just say go, and God bless them, they just go and they get that hill taken. And then finally, we keep a couple of watchwords in our head. One, make it powerful, because if it isn't powerful, it isn't helpful. 2, make it simple, because although storage is our life, storage isn't everybody's life. And 3, keep people protected. That's the number one rule in storage, is whatever you do, make sure that folks are safe. So that's where we are. That's Exablox and the corporate overview. Tad's going to come up and tell you a little bit more about the technology. And if you have any questions later, I'll be here. Thanks.